1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So we'll start again. The whole thing is to get comfortable and let your body not be something that you think about. So if you want to lay down on these wonderful cushioned pews, you're welcome to do that. Or just sit up and put your feet up in lotus position. You're welcome to do that. If you want to sit on the floor, you're welcome to do that. But the whole thing is the meditation part. To make this a regular thing that you do every day. Because it's a little hard in the beginning, but it's your food. You really don't want to start your day without that meditation. Because you become a giant of adding to the good that's on the planet. And just sitting down and taking that time, whether it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, it's the idea that you are saying, I want to be filled. I want to be a channel of blessings. I want to lift myself into another way of thinking, which benefits the planet at this time, all of life. I don't want to hold grievances anymore. I want to help people. I want to help my relatives, my friends. And when you sit down and you prayers at the end, you're in this higher energy. When you send out those prayers, it's so powerful and people's lives are changed. So we're going to do some chanting to get us centered. And don't even think about what you sound like. That's not what's important. It's getting that holy feeling. When Jack was working in the Bowery in New York, helping to clean off people that had chosen to drink their way into being on the streets, and they would bring them into this area where he worked, he would find a place in the place where he was to meditate in a corner, just to prepare himself to be of service at that time, helping those poor people that just did not have a lot going for them. But he had watched miracles happen by him just caring about them and them feeling that kindness that he was offering to them. So tonight we're in this wonderful sanctuary, and let's just get ourselves comfortable, and this is the call and response. And if you have anybody you'd like to pray over, there's a piece of paper next to the prayer box, and you can write the name on there and just put it in the prayer box. I will pick it up before I do the calling of the names. Okay, here we go. You are in the sun. In each flower's bloom, you are in my heart, in this very room. Oh, divine, all I want is you. Oh, divine, all I want is you. Oh, divine, all I want is you. You are in the wind, in each twinkling star. You are all around me. You are never far. Oh, divine, all I want is you. Oh, divine, all I want is you. Oh, divine, all I want is you. You are in the mountains, laughing in each brook. You are peeping at me everywhere I look. Oh, divine, all I want is you. Oh, divine, all I want is you. Oh, divine, all I want is you. I can feel your presence where each pathway bends. I can see you smiling through the eyes of friends. And my soul keeps singing. Oh, divine, all I want is you. Oh, divine, all I want is you. Oh, divine, all I want is you. You are in the sun, in each flower's bloom. You are in my heart, in this very room. Oh, divine, all I want is you. 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 Is you. Is you.
Just shot, Norma. Enough of that chant. They better not, because they'd have to shoot me next. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Jack.
Well, as most of you know, I began my spiritual journey way back in New York City decades ago. Got involved with the Association of Research and Enlightenment, and there was a tiny broken down apartment that they used to start a center for the ARE in New York City. And people would go there, not many people would go there, but it started off with a couple of handfuls of people were attending on a Saturday. You'd have to walk up this creaky flight of stairs to get to this apartment that was turned into a meeting place or a center. And just to give you some idea of the neighborhood it was in New York City on West 36th Street, on the ground floor there was a Chinese restaurant, and they had a window there with a sign in it, but the window was almost always fogged up because they were cooking nearby, and the window was almost always fogged up. And it was probably an advantage for the restaurant because the sign that they had there that they wanted people to see was good, clean food. It just gives you a thought, maybe I don't want to eat here. Clean food. But it was, it wasn't ostentatious in any way, shape, or form. But it seemed like the young people that showed up there were really interested in finding another way to live because their lives weren't working. And we didn't just go for one session. You went there on a Saturday. It started at about, 8 or 9 in the morning. And there were meditation groups, dream groups, discussion groups, prayer groups, same people getting together, doing all of this, trying to understand the truth of life and thereby embrace it and have what the truth of life promises. So while I was there and doing what I do, and Norma was with me, I got onto this whole idea about all the things that I would have to give up in order to follow the path of true life, which is what we talked about quite, true life. What is true life? And so in thinking about that, I realized that I don't think I would have the discipline or the presence of mind to be able to deny myself a lot of what was being said you had to release in order to find your way into this consciousness of true life. But it came to a place where I understood it was about willingness, having a willingness to enter this true life. You could surrender the responsibility for some of the negative, limited concepts of your being, you could surrender them to God. And then, once you did that, things would happen in your life in which you'd get to a place where you had to honor the fact that you surrendered it, or you would feel really upset that you weren't going along with the will of God. Because these things became very evident. Oh, goodness, this is taking place because I was willing to give this up. And now look, here's the test. Can I give it up? And it's God now, because it set it up. This whole situation came from the cosmos. And it was like I set a table in my mind between myself and the deity, my creator. And on that table, I made a deal. I'm going to just put the certain things I think I'm willing to give up. I'm ready to give up. And it'll be up to God to do the work, pull it off, you know, get me through it. And I kept that concept right up until today. I live in that awareness, that kind of an awareness. But at some point, it becomes more and more difficult because it gets very subtle. You know, you got to be careful the things you put up on the table, because, you know, they're really stuff that you've grown used to cherishing. And then you have to kind of put it up on that table, and you'll see something's going to come about where you'll see, are you really willing to give that up? And this comes all the way down to aspects of your personality. I mean, I'm talking about smoking, or even drinking, or having sexual relationships, things like that. You have to really be open and honest about your willingness and where you want to go with that. At some point about, I don't know, 5 years ago, I had a situation where this dog that I loved, whose name was Gawaken, was a white dog, and it was like a lot of the dogs I've had, but this dog had a special personality that I so appreciated. He would not be confined except by, you know, really stringent means. If you left the door in the house slightly cracked, this dog will open that door and get away into the woods. We live in the mountains. And then I had an electric fence put up around this about 3/4 of an acre outside our house, which is what our house was on. And I would put my dog out there, and he was taught with this thing on his neck that's an electric line. It had white flags as this line went around the property. And if he even went close to those flags, there would be a beeper that would go off on his neck collar. And then if he went beyond that, he'd get a little shock in the neck. And then if he tried to go over it, he'd get a really big shock. Because I wanted to keep him confined. I didn't want him going to the mountains for certain reasons. At that time, there were a lot of mountain lions spotted in the area. And I didn't want him to wind up in that situation. But he was so determined to run away sometimes, he would get in the middle of the field and take a running run and leap as high as he could over the flags, over the line. He would actually light up when he was being hit with that electric shock. And he'd make it to the other side and then keep going. I'm sure there's a spiritual truth in there somewhere, but what it comes down to is one day he did run away. But he always came back to eat later in the evening. And then he didn't come back one day. And I went out looking for him, taking my own life in my hands because I'm up in the mountains wandering around looking for him. There's all kinds of mountain lions spotted in the area. He didn't come back that first day. He didn't come back the second day. And he didn't come back the third day. And at that point, I had been praying to God to get him back. I loved that dog. But then one day I just said, you know what, God? I never put my dog on that table. I have given you a lot of me, but not the dog. And the following morning, he came back. That's a strange way to pray to God, but he came back, and he had been through a lot. He was really disheveled and sick and weak, and I don't know what the hell he went through. But when we got him back, we did our alternative healing on him, castor oil packs on his stomach. I think some veterinarian said, we were just talking, we never took the dog to a vet, but a veterinarian we were talking to at the dog store said he might have had his stomach turned. That happens to dogs sometimes. And he can't eat, so he gets weak. And so we took care of him and we brought him back. And he managed to live another 3 years with us. But what I am expressing in this whole idea is the fact that we are not really capable of letting go of those things that we cherish. We really need to have the presence of God enter into the process and lead us to the recognition that we have to really be willing to let this go. And you'll see it play out. I mean, I watched these things play out over the years. And so, as I said, it's about a willingness to free yourself from some addiction you may have. It can be any number of things, but even if, and this is a hard thing for people to get themselves in touch with. Some people simply do talk too much. They get with someone and they just want to unload all that's going on in their life, and it's about me and what happened to me, blah, 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 blah. And some people do that, and it's just another one of the many flaws that we all, we fall prey to over the years. And that's a hard one for people to acknowledge and to say, you know what, I want to put that on the table and let God help me get rid of that attitude of the self that has to be talking my trip to everybody. And there's other things like that as well. But the key to this whole spiritual journey is the willingness to offer something to God to take care of. And at some point in this process of evolving spiritually, we learn how to give the difficult things that we're experiencing in our lives also to God. And it's a beautiful process, because in being able to do that, you establish a certain amount of peace of mind already. When you freely know that there's a grand intelligence at work in your life and in life in general, you can give that over, and when you're going through a real challenge or a real difficult time, you can just turn it all over and say, you got it, God. It's all yours now. And you will feel a peace come over you, knowing that the same thing that takes place when you're giving something up personally, and you see it working out in the world around you, you'll see how this works out in the very beginning to bring you peace of mind. And with peace of mind, you also get intuitive insight. Usually when a person is stewing in a problem, running it over and over in their minds, trying to figure out, oh my God, how are we going to deal with this? How am I going to get through this? Oh, no, 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 no. Well, that's all happening in your awareness. You're blocking the spirit. You're keeping insight from coming into your awareness. So you can't be guided and you can't be helped because you're literally trying to think your way through it without ever having the ability to do that. So this whole thing about entering into a relationship with God in which you're willing to give up certain personal elements that are like addictions that keep you from, that you're spending too much time in worldly thought and not enough time in spiritual consciousness. When you're willing to do that, it leads you to a place where you say, oh, I can also make a contract to give over some of the challenges coming at me in the world. And then you see that playing out. And so this concept of willingness is a very important concept. Let me share this with you from A Course in Miracles. Merely by being what it is, does truth release you from everything that is not. It's a really powerful statement. Because the truth is that this intelligence and love that lives through us is everywhere present and always available. Only we live in lives and thoughts that are in denial of that and locking ourselves away from the true peace, the true joy, and the true life we could be living. But here's what it's saying on page 271 in the old text, and this is also in the new text on page 292. Merely by being what it is, does truth release you from everything that is not. The at-one-ment is so gentle, you need but whisper to it, and all its power will rush to your assistance and everything you need. You are not frail with God beside you, yet without God, you are nothing. The at-one-ment offers you God. The gift that you refused is held by Him for you. The Holy Spirit holds it there for you. God has not left His altar, though His worshipers placed other gods upon it. The temple still is holy, for the presence that dwells within it is holiness. In the temple, holiness waits quietly for the return of them that love it. I suspect that if you had no other literature and were stranded on an island somewhere, maybe with a bunch of people that wound up being stranded with you, and you wanted to understand your relationship to how to live effectively, this might be the one paragraph that would do it for you. Merely by being what it is, that is, truth, release you from everything that is not. You've heard me say that I believe there are dimensions of human experience that have evolved beyond the limited time and space experiences and limitations we have in our three-dimensional world. And I believe that possibly masters can go on to a place where they can either be in a state of pure mind or decide to pick up a body and live in a body, or at least appear in a body and then leave the body whenever they wanted. I believe that is so, and maybe we'll discover that in our process of growing spiritually. But what it's saying is that the truth just is. It doesn't have to change, but we will have to eliminate those things, those idols, those gods in our mind that we have taken in that literally block the concept that we are divine beings, living divine lives, experiencing divine love, and going about in a state of harmony and peace, regardless of circumstances. So we're on a journey to a kingdom of heaven that is not far off beyond the stars. That kingdom of heaven is right where Jesus said it is, in the midst of us and all around us. It is a state of consciousness. And so we get truth like this in order to remind us to be more and more steadfast in our faith on this path. So the at-one-ment is so gentle, you need but whisper to it, and all its power will rush to your assistance and support. You are not frail with God beside you, yet without Him you are nothing. The at-one-ment offers you God. The gift that you refused is held by God for you. The Holy Spirit holds it there for you. God has not left His altar, though His worshipers placed other gods upon it. And the altar that they're speaking about is the altar of consciousness that we understand through the mind. The temple still is holy, for the presence that dwells within it is holiness. In the temple, holiness waits quietly for the return of them that love it. So, as we become more and more in love with what we experience when we're in divine awareness and living in divine awareness, that will ultimately lead us to the enlightened state of consciousness in which there is nothing outside of us that will hold sway over our ability to be in acknowledgement of the presence of God. Can you imagine that? If the world itself woke up enough to recognize that wherever you are, and whatever you're thinking and whatever you're doing, God is there. Right there with you. And your peace of mind, your joy, your love, your healing, your prosperity are all being staked when you are in denial of God as love. You are surrendering the world that you think is going to do it for you in order to have the gifts of spirit that will make you free and bring you the joy, the peace, the wholeness, the love that you are really seeking. The world can't bring it to you. And those people that are trying to manipulate conditions and circumstances out there, when they're doing that, they should be aware of the fact they're doing it in the presence of God. And that what you are doing is you're denying yourself. Listen to the line. Can you imagine 2,000 years ago, thereabouts, this great carpenter's son was upon the earth. He's the son of a carpenter. He was a carpenter for a while. He gathered some disciples, and he would meditate. He'd go to the mountain. He would pray. And in the process of his ministering, he would say, listen to this. Can you imagine a carpenter's son, a lowly carpenter's son saying this? My words will never go away. Heaven and earth could pass away before my words would go away. They will never, never, never go away. And when this was brought up to his disciples, and he asked them, will you stay with me through, and what he's saying, through the thick and thin of what I will have to go through? Will you stay with me? And the disciples respond, where can we go? You have the truth. And that's what this is talking about, the truth. And so he said his words would never pass away. And he was right. His words have never passed away. They are still there. Unfortunately, some of his words are hard for those who have become disciples of the thinking of the world. Because he said, among the words that never go away, he said, whatever you do to the least of these, my brethren, you do it unto me. You are reaping what you are sowing. And I remember that Swami Rama, when I met him before he became somewhat famous as a guru, he came to the ARE in our little apartment. He just got off the bus in New York City. I don't even know how he found the place. Came up there. He had a suitcase with all of his belongings. I don't know what, I guess spirit moved him to come there. He asked if he could give a talk someday. He's talking, maybe we had 35 or 40 people attending that little place. But he said it as well in a different way. He said, if you don't like your life, change your mind. Because it is only you who are creating the resistance to the truth that would make you free. And here we are, in unity, seeking to understand true life, that is coming to the life beyond the limited thinking of the world, in which we were born and raised and educated and taught, and grew these ideas, these personalities, and took in a lot of negative stuff, and live in too often a negative fashion. We hold judgments and fears and beliefs that are counter to harmony and healing and love and joy and peace, all of that. All of that is not part of true life. All of that is among the things that we eventually need to put on the table and ask God to take it over so that we can free ourselves from being part of our own problem. The greatest part of the problems that people suffer in the world are of their own making. There is real suffering in the world. If you lose a member of the family who's beloved, that is real suffering. If you lose, a job that's very important for your well-being financially, that's real suffering. And there's a number of things, you can relate them or think about them. There's real suffering in the world. But the greatest majority of the suffering people experience is from their own doing, in their own minds. They create scenarios and situations that are not in keeping with loving thoughts or loving actions. That's all of religion, by the way. What I just said just now, that's all there is. I mean, just take the cathedrals and sell them. When you sell all the cathedrals, take the money and donate it to Unity. All the religion there is. That man's greatest problems are self-made in his own, her own mind, creating resistance to being an expression of the divine, being willing to bestow peace instead of judgment, being willing to forgive instead of blame. And why is all that stuff? What is all that? Being willing to be truthful instead of deceitful. What is all that? All that is our calling to true life. There's real suffering in the world, but the majority of the suffering human beings go through is personally self-made because their minds are set to be in resistance, to follow idols in the world instead of their own inner God consciousness. So we're going to do some practice of the meditation. Meditation is an amazing thing, even when you don't think anything is happening. The fact that you've decided to be still for a while and not to be running over and over in your mind your personal desires, demands, self-interest. You've decided to just be still and to allow the divine to speak in your awareness. And we do that by listening to these beautiful Tibetan bowls. And after we listen to the Tibetan bowls for a while and become okay with the fact of just sitting here, being okay, sitting being okay, and we might want to take a mantra into the silence, which is having no imagined separate self and no imagined needs. Only love is given, only love received. Having no imagined desperate needs, only love is given, only love received. Having no imagined deceitful thoughts, only love is given, only love received. In this refined state of consciousness, we will offer the names of those that have been submitted to our prayer list. As Norma calls the name, just let the thought, "You are whole," continue in your awareness.
Lainey, Suzanne, Christopher Ryan, Tom Stalmack, Donna and Will, Ingrid Smallman, Ellie Faustick, Annette Carmen, Deanna Kay, Denise Provost, Vicki Kilgore, Don Lanier, Elena Pizzini, Sue Hollinshead, Peter and Eris, the Russian dissidents, freedom seekers worldwide, Lance Miller, David, Michelle Lord, Teresa and Spencer Koblig, Jean-Paul Zamore, Daniel Roddery, Teresita Vidar, Family Safety, Celise, Tom, Ed Sheets, Kay Griffiths, Harper Griffiths, Jeannie Anderson, Judy Kennedy, Wouter Verhagen, Vision Therapy Program Office and Staff, Don Gilger, City of Groningen, Sue, Larry, and Tommy, Schumacher, Maura, Sean, Kit, Ricardo, Milena, Maureen Kennedy, Marjorie Hagan, Frank Hagan, the Hagan family, Sandy and Phil, people of Ukraine, Dell and family, fires in Canada, truth, honor, and integrity. Pray for the wild animals in Canada and all life. Robert, Cheryl's husband, Dan, who passed away recently. Scott Baker, Sandy Spahn, Zolita, Tom. You can call out a name at this time if you would like to do so. We see this healing light surrounding the prayer box and all the people's names that have been submitted throughout the month. We see them healed physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Let us take a moment or two to visualize the arrival of the consciousness divine, creating the new heaven in earth. And as we recognize everyone sharing this Boulder community, rising in consciousness to become emissaries of the divine, we recognize this consciousness spreading to everyone sharing the state of Colorado with us, and sharing this divine consciousness, everyone in these United States of America. And this taking place in the country of Russia, everyone coming to the light of divine consideration, caring, forgiveness, and peace. And this taking place in every nation and every culture of the world, restoring true life to all creation, harmony to all the creatures on the planet. As we pray, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and God is love. To this we say, Amen. We will take an offering for unity now. And I believe those of you watching this live stream, if you're on our site, you can scroll down to the place where it says donate. And as we bring the gifts we'd like to make to Unity of Boulder into our minds, into our hands, let's bless them with this offering prayer. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. And so it is. Join me now, please. We dedicate this tithe to the will and the work of the Spirit of truth, the Spirit available to each of us, the Spirit that joins all of us. We dedicate this tithe to the victory of the Spirit of truth. Amen. Do you have anything you want to announce? Okay. Sunday I will be giving a talk on effective prayer. And so you're all invited to that at 9 a.m. Santisha will commandeer the second service at 11 o'clock a.m. We have tea and cookies through these doors to your left into the bookstore. If you want to stay and chat. To everyone, good night.
We want to thank everybody that helped with the potluck on Sunday. It was such a great success, and we all got to meet so many people and be family. It feels like family again. People coming back, and we have eyeballs to look at now and watch lips move. It's so cool. So we appreciate it. on our end. Maybe you can get something else from sitting home, but there's something about coming together, making that effort, and just being here together. It's so warm and so family. Thank you.
Good night.